You're listening to Within Tolerance, a podcast for machinists by a machinist. I'm your host, Dylan Jackson of Protean Machining, and this week I'm joined by Travis Leer of AlienTools. Welcome, Travis.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Our mutual friend Marv reached out to me and said, you got to have this guy on there. It's a cool story. It's cool tooling. So I appreciate Marv for making the connection and really look forward to hearing the story. So we talked before we started, how does a American end up in Germany making a tool company? Let's get into it. How did you get to where you are?
Yeah, who's not a machinist? I should start off by saying that, clarify.
Well, that makes the story even more interesting.
So born and raised in Seattle, don't have any German roots or anything. Spent my whole life in Seattle. My dad was a marine electrician, so working on the boats that you see on Deadliest Catch, some of them. So we had a lot of
cool.
Yeah, he had his own company called Buzz Electric. His name was Buzz. He was a very creative guy. So I grew up with machines and a passion for knowing how things work. And that started then really on. And then went to UW, got accepted to the electrical engineering department, but found out pretty quickly that I didn't like electrical engineering. It was a mix of the group that I was with, and I felt too limited. I want to do something more broad. And as I explain this, I think you'll see that I've been extremely lucky with a couple of people that I've met along the way. So one summer when I was at UW, my roommate was one of my best friends from high school, his older brother. And this guy was a business guru. So in high school, started his first business, like with a coupon website. He got us back into them when you could buy domain names and resell them, which we had no idea about. So that was pretty nice in college for side money. But I mean, he was the youngest stockbroker in America. So at 17 had to divorce his parents so he can be declared an adult to get his broker's license. So smart guy. And he just recently, in the last couple of years, sold his company to Snapchat. So
holy cow.
He is now very rich.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That sounds like such a cool person to be exposed to, though, especially so early, so young.
Yeah, crazy, dumb luck. It was my, like I said, best friend's older brother. And we lived together for a summer. And I saw his creativity and how much he actually loved business. Because I mean, when you're in college, you're not really focused on that sort of stuff.
I sure wasn't, at least.
No, but he was. I mean, morning to nights, it was all business, and I kind of caught that fire. And so the next year, I applied to business school at the UW and got rejected because.
Oh no!
Yeah, I messed around too much on my freshman year. I think grades weren't strong enough to get in, but he was also rejected from the business school. So they're not the best judge of character, I guess.
Apparently, yeah.
But so I had to pick something, and I ended up studying economics, and I really loved economics. That was one of the best things that I think could have happened, because it was really the first experience. It mixed in with the grow up as a kid, wanting to know how everything works, into a bigger, how do economies work, how do, international relations work. And that really, I mean, I was this close to being an accountant, and I'm so glad it didn't happen that way, because an accountant tries to tell their own story from numbers that already exists, and an economist tries to explain what's going to happen based on what's happened in the past. So more of the practical implementation, I would say. So in 2004, I graduated, and I don't know how old you are, but 2004 was a tough time in the job market.
Yeah, about a little younger, but I definitely remember 2008 and all of that. It was not a good time.
Yeah, well, that's funny that you mentioned 2008, because I got exactly one job interview after college. Or my first job interview was set up by my friend, the business guy, and was at some tech startup company in Seattle. Would have been awesome, but I seriously bombed the interview. like
Oh,
real bad.
no.
I thought just knowing him would be enough. They'd be like, oh, we trust him. And then they asked me stuff like, I mean, how many job interviews have you had to do? Probably not very much, right?
Uh, I don't know. Nothing serious. Like I think I've only had a couple professional job interviews.
Yeah.
And the first job I got in machining was kind of not even really a job interview. Like they had a Craigslist ad up for a machinist who knew Mastercam, and I walked in being like, "Hey, I don't know Mastercam yet, and I'm not a machinist yet, but I'm going to school for it. And so what can we do?" And they were like, "Well, we cannot pay you, and you can work here."
No,
And so I
that's
did that for like 8 months or 6 months until I knew enough and they felt like they could trust me and give me a paycheck.
oh, nice.
Yeah, it worked out, but it was definitely like I remember like at the time I was living at home and telling my mom what I wanted to do, and she was like, "Good luck. This probably won't work out."
Shows you mom.
Yeah.
They, yeah, at a tech startup company is a little different. They have
Sure.
like the scientifically designed questions. And I mean, what are you, 21 when you graduate? And they're asking questions like, I remember this one question was, how much does a Boeing 747 weigh? And explain your reasoning.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
And I was so nervous, and I think I explained it for 30 minutes. Like, just try it. I felt if I kept on talking, eventually I would get to the answer. And
Just
it all made
overwhelm them with
no
information.
sense. Yeah. It all made zero sense. But so I did not get the job, and then ended up getting a job at the largest privately held mortgage lender in the US. So the market was really tough. So you're talking about 2008. So I started 2004 in banking, in mortgage banking.
Jeez.
But it doesn't go how you think it would. It was a right place, right time situation where they were kind of restructuring, and I always worked, longer than anyone else. That was and harder, and that's exactly what they were looking for in this restructuring. So after about 2 years, I was already regional manager, so of several branches of this
Oh, wow.
company. So it went very quickly. And then I was spending a lot of time. One of the branches was in Vegas. So a ton of hours, and exactly what you think banking is, extremely stressful. I don't think there's any more stressful transaction than buying a house. And we're dealing with this hundreds of times a day. So it wasn't an easy job. It wasn't easy money, but the money was good. And then 2008 came, and we were in Bellevue, the office. So live in Seattle, in the financial section of Bellevue, and all the banks are on one street. And so you'd be driving to work one day, and all the Washington Mutual employees would be standing outside the building because they had just locked the doors.
Ooh,
And
that's super rough.
yeah, several months like that. And so my wife is actually half German, half American. So the classic dad is a US soldier. Mom is from a small town in Germany. And we just started making like backup plans. Okay, if I lose my job, then I get severance and we can take a year off and go to Germany. And what actually happened was the reason all these banks started going under is because they were doing all this all these shady loans.
Right, the subprime.
Yeah, subprime.
Loans.
We didn't get into subprime at all. It was all A paper. So throughout the whole process, we became stronger.
Oh, wow.
And we ended up buying other banks. So then it was clear we were not going to be closing. So we had already made these plans to take off a year, and I was 27 at the time, and my boss was the owner. So I wasn't really going anywhere. It was a good job, good money, but at 27, you don't want to know how the story ends. So we're just like, okay, we'll do our backup plan anyways, go to Berlin for a year because we had done a little tour in Europe and I really loved Berlin. Said, okay, we'll stay there a year. I'll learn German as much as I can in a year, and then we'll come back. And so took the year off, and that was 14 years ago or 13 years ago.
Yeah, the
So
best laid plans, right?
yeah. So I'll go. I'll try to move quickly through this. Once I got to Germany, it was just going to be a year of nothing, like a sabbatical year. And one of the clients from the bank actually reached out to me, had found out. So he was doing mortgage lending as like a side business, and his real business was producing zirconia.
Okay.
Yeah. And he had two big contracts, one with GE and one with NASA. And so it was pretty much automatic to make the same parts over and over. And then the dental industry started to change. I don't know how much you know about the CAD/CAM dental industry, but that is like a fairly recent development.
So I don't know a whole bunch about it, but so I was one of the original Kickstarter backers for the Form 1, the
Right.
resin printer.
Yeah.
And one way that I ended up paying off my Kickstarter backer pretty much, or Kickstarter pledge, was that I was one of the first on the forums to start doing test prints for other people who were interested in the printer. Because at the time, Forum Labs would only let you, or, only send you the Rook that they had, that little, Rook
Right.
with staircase inside. And so I did prints for everything. I mean, I did like something for the Advanced Warrior project in India. I did like little toy things for some company in Berlin. And one of the things that I did a few different prototypes of was dental molds for, I think actually a company like a couple hours for me.
Oh, really?
So I don't know a whole bunch about it, but I do know that there was quite a big shift, right around that time of like, oh, we need to mill this or print it and mold it and things like that.
Right. Printing is even, that's taken off within the last 4 or 5 years. And CAD/CAM in general is really only seriously been 10, 15 years. But it's this huge problem of, I mean, it's one of the oldest industries in the world, fixing people's teeth. And you go from hundreds of years of melting metals and carving wood. And then all of a sudden they say, okay, you need a computer and a machine. So it was a huge jump for these people. And they started buying these machines, but they don't really know how it all works. And the machines are set up that way. You can't really put your own tools into the strategies. You can't really change any of the milling strategies. You just say, okay, they do the design and then it automatically calculates based on their strategies. And if you want to get new strategies, you have to contact the machine manufacturer. And then there's this like little sub part of the industry where it's just consultants, where all they do is write strategies for other people or design for them. So how that fits into zirconia.
I was just about to ask you. I was like, well, there's this dental thing and there's this zirconia thing.
Yeah. Sorry. Kind of a side tangent there. But so the zirconia is only recently, it's a white material and very strong. So stronger than any other dental white, natural looking material that was previously out there, but it was too hard to mill. So even fully sintered, it's, really difficult to mill. And then they started this, okay, half sintered. So the green state zirconia that you mill and then sinter it afterwards.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So they designed it, 40% bigger, and then it shrinks during sintering. And there was only a couple of companies in the world making the zirconia, and zirconia was really starting to take off. And so he saw this opportunity. Okay, we could switch, from doing this fully sintered products to making our own zirconia powder, pressing the blanks and then selling them for the different dental CAD/CAM machines, and contacted me because he knew me from the bank and said, we'd really like to open a branch in Europe. And then I had no idea about the industry. I started looking into it, and all the big competitors are here in Germany.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I said, yeah, we can try. I don't know. So then I spent the first year learning the joys of opening a company in Germany, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sure that they're known for having almost no regulation.
Yeah. No, hardly any red tape. I mean, for instance, to start a LLC, you need 25,000 in the bank. So You need to show I have 25,000 in the bank just for that company. And then every month you need to file returns for the first 2 years at least.
Holy cow. That's so restrictive.
Yeah. So the startup cost, there's no like easing into the, okay, I can pay my accountant, at the end of the year when I'm preparing the returns. No, it's starting every month. They control everything. And it's insane how many different offices you have to go to get all the Erlaubnisse, all the licenses and everything that you need. It's crazy.
Jeez. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, like, cause here you need like $100 to file the LLC paperwork and then you're an LLC. Like
Yeah.
you could just never use it again and like not make any money with it. And it's still an LLC.
Yeah. But the focus here in Germany is like the big business. You have all the car manufacturers and all the huge German companies. And that's where I think you kind of start to see it where they lack in innovation, because innovation is not coming from the big companies.
Right.
It's coming from the small startups that have nothing to lose and say, you know what, screw it. I'll try it and see if it works. And that's where all the good ideas come from. And that's really not promoted here in Germany very well. So you need someone that's just stubborn like me and will do it anyways.
Okay. So you started this zirconia business.
Right. And there's where I met just another dumb luck person that really changed the game for me. My neighbor that lived above me in our apartments, hardly anyone have houses in Berlin. It's all apartment complexes. And the people that lived above us had 2 kids that were almost the same exact age as our kids. We ended up becoming friends with them. And he was a professor doctor of marketing at a university here in Berlin. And he's like, that's really interesting. You started a company and started asking me all these questions about marketing and branding. And I had grown the bank business, but not really with marketing. It was really just quality of product and turn times and that sort of stuff. And this is a totally different beast. You have to find the customers. And I've never cold called in my life. I would never do that because I just find that really awkward to call people and ask for business.
I 100% agree. I think it takes a special kind of person to
Yeah,
who's comfortable cold calling for
just
sure.
Someone who embraces rejection.
Yes.
Constantly. But yeah, so I really had, I had general understandings of how to do marketing, but he's a professor, doctor, and I just spent so many nights and we'd spend time at the office having beers and talking about theories, and then just on our terrace, barbecues. So endless nights just learning from him. And he can take these really complex ideas and then explain it. He's a professor. So explain it really simply. And that really changed my whole understanding of how branding and marketing works, and it fits into economics, because economics, you have constants. Like one of the constants in economics is everyone's going to do what's best for themselves. And as far as marketing and branding, there are also it's mostly psychology, as far as these things generally humans like. So then you appeal to that. And one of the things is really to be able to speak to that audience, you have to know that audience really well. And so I spent several years like in this world of testing out different marketing and branding and messaging, and it works really well. And in the dental field, because it's all brand new, I found that if you focus on one sales point that's different that they understand, it goes a long way. And so essentially building this brand from scratch. And that's where I met Stefan Zesche. So have you ever had to do a trade show before?
No. We're much too small. I've been to them though. Like we're going to IMTS this year.
Yeah,
We've been a couple times.
Yeah, but you've never had to stand on a
No.
trade show booth for 5 days and tell the same story over 1,000 times. Like, don't get me wrong. I like trade shows mostly for meeting the customers. It's a meeting point of already existing customers. Getting new customers is really difficult just based on the industry. Something like tools or Zirconia, they first get a sample and they test it. And then if it's good, then, it's a very long process. But trade shows are great for the human interaction, but there's a lot of people that come by and are trying to sell you stuff. And then everyone says, like, oh, I can be your partner in this country, or I can help you with your videos. You're constantly getting sold. And so I was at the largest dental trade show is every 2 years in Cologne, called the IDS. And we had a huge booth, and I was already there a week beforehand helping build the booth. So all day, every day. So after a week of building, and actually wired that booth myself.
Nice. Callback.
Yeah. Callback. Shout out to my pops. I was already really tired when it started. And then the first day is always distributor day. So all the people coming wanting to resell your products come, and it's always about price. And I've never been involved in a product that sells over price like that. The price was a sales point, that we're the cheapest. And that's what a lot of distributors are looking for.
And that's a tough selling point in any business.
Yeah. I mean,
that's always the toughest.
Yeah. Because the next guy comes, buys $5 cheaper, and customer's gone.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. I would imagine it's hard to build an actual like brand that people are fans of, just being really cheap.
Right.
I've never tried it. On I think day 3, I'm standing at the booth, and Stefan Zescher walks to the booth with one of his salespeople, and I had no idea who he was. And he tries to break the ice, so he comes straight for me, introduced himself as Stefan Zescher. I didn't know him. I didn't know the company. And he said, I'm a friend of this person. And the person he named, I did not like at all. I didn't trust this guy at all. So I immediately said, oh, nice to meet you. Here's my friend. And so I passed him off to somebody else. And he loves telling that story.
Oh yeah, you're like, no, let me get rid of this guy. I can't stand his friend.
Yeah, no, I thought it was another one trying to sell me something. Right. So I immediately, I did it nicely, but it was still clear that I passed him off. That messaging was not lost on him, but he ended up talking to one of the employees there, and what he didn't know is we were in the middle of looking at horizontal expansion, so offering products to go along with our Zirconia, and one of them being tools. And we were testing a lot of tools from everywhere, and just seeing because the Zirconia was, the product placement was top quality, but not as expensive as the most expensive. So it was price to value, aimed to be the best. And so we were looking for a tool that was the same, and we were already in the middle of a couple months of testing different stuff, hadn't really found something that was perfect. And he talked to the employee. They agreed he would send him some tools to test. And then I get a call from this guy a week later, and he said, these tools are way better than anything we've been testing so far. And I thought that sounded strange. I didn't see how tools could have that huge of a quality difference. And I didn't know the prices at all at this point. I said, okay, if they're that much better, then they're probably way too expensive. But I thought I would call Stefan and ask if I could, come tour the facility and ask some questions. And so I called him hoping that he would forget that I was rude. I know he, of course, is very polite and acted like he didn't remember, and invited me to come see it. And I thought I would get like the general tour of part of the facility, and he would kind of give me the sales points. And to my surprise, he was totally open, showed me every part of production, explained to me in detail why there these huge quality differences where they could happen. And one of them being, not all coatings are made the same. So for instance, to that point, my knowledge of coatings was, okay, there's DLC and there's diamond coating, and everyone tries to sell diamond coating as DLC. And so I knew that much was different. And he explained to me in that meeting, showed me a bunch of different diamond coatings. And I was like, okay. So that makes sense. And then he showed me a top secret project they were working on, which was taking one of these multi-layered diamond coatings. So not just long crystals. I don't know how deep your knowledge is of diamond coating.
I've used it, but that's what I definitely am probably where you were when you went on that tour. I know of them. I know where they work best sometimes, and that's about it.
Right. But even with real diamond coating, there's huge differences also in manufacturing processes. Like as far as I had known, is the standard long diamond crystals, and a multi-layer coating is actually alternating layers of nano and micro crystals. So you don't have these long crystals that have a really jagged surface. And what happens is if one of the crystals gets damaged, it breaks the coating all the way down to the carbide. And with the micro layers, it stops at the next layer because it's not one huge single layer.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So the coating lasts a really long time. And then he showed me what they were working on as the next generation of diamond coating, because it's still 8 to 10 microns thick, this coating. So you have a rounding at the cutting edge.
Uh-huh.
And it's always been the goal to get a perfectly sharp cutting edge, because even the inconsistencies, that's where the damage comes from. And so if you can get it perfectly sharp, then if you use the tool properly, depending on the material, you'll never lose the coating. And so he showed me this new laser machine from Rollomatic that even Rollomatic, they didn't design the machine for that, or they didn't know how to do what Seja was doing at that point. And they still can't do it at that small of diameter that Seja's doing.
Really?
So what they do is take this multi-layer coating and then sharpen the cutting edges with a laser on each side. So perfectly sharp, straight cutting edge. And he showed me that my first meeting. We didn't have any deal or anything.
Wow.
And it just showed me through, they will have everything, this huge machine park full of roll, so top of the line, so millions of euros worth of machines, and then just lines of people on microscopes checking every single tool that goes out of there. You immediately understood why it was different. And so I thought, okay, this is the partner that I was looking for. And then he told me the price, and it was reasonable that he wanted to sell it. I said, perfect, let's do it. I still had one question of why he wanted to have me. Still had the question about why people weren't lined up at his door, right? If the tools were that good, why isn't every machine manufacturer? Because in the dental field, typically the machine manufacturer sells the tools, and they know that their customer doesn't have experience with any other tools. And they tell them stuff like, our tools are made for our tooling strategies, which is completely ridiculous.
Right.
Or that they'll lose their warranty if they use, other companies' tool. It's crazy.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah, just telling them impossible stuff and knowing that these people have no idea. So okay, we'll use the tools. And he said that he had previously tried to join the dental market by going to machine manufacturers. And they had tested tools, and every one of them told him, no, they last too long. We won't make any money.
Yeah. The printer model.
Yeah.
If the ink lasts forever, you can't, why would you sell a cheap printer?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and there was no one really introducing, at least at an effective level, that was making waves through the market, industrial quality tools for the dental market. Like I said, perfect. We had set up everything, which tools we wanted. They started producing. I became really obsessed with tools and coding because I had to find the one thing that I could explain to a market that doesn't really understand anything about the tooling, where they would think, okay, that makes sense. And we were shortly before getting the first delivery, and then I got a call from Seattle that the company had been sold. So,
No way.
yeah. So any open projects, they got bought by a huge company. Any open projects that were not closed yet, and we didn't have any contracts. It was all handshake deals. So it was immediately canceled.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. It was not, I felt absolutely terrible because I'd really grown to love this company. Like the people there, if you're ever in Germany, I'll take you there. And because I think everyone tries to say, here we're family, but I've worked for family companies or worked with family companies, and this is the one where it really does feel like it's a group of people that work like a family, and I mean just full of awesome people. So I really wanted to. I felt terrible, and I called him immediately and explained what had happened. And I said, give me 2 weeks, come to Berlin, and I'll pitch an idea of how I would enter the dental market as Tesho or as its own brand. And he said, okay. So 2 weeks later, I came to Berlin and I pitched the idea of AlienTools initially as a present. So as a gift, as an apology, because I had no idea what would be happening with my position. And I thought he would immediately think it's crazy because, it's not very typical of a German family-owned company that's been doing it for 60 years, that they're so open to take risks like that. But he immediately said he likes it. Now I have to present it to the production team.
Okay. So this might be a good time because I know personally I've never used any Zesha tooling, and I'm not sure what their presence is over here. So for those who are listening who don't know what they do and what they excel in, can you explain where they started and what like obviously dental market they're in, but like what are they known for?
Well, the AlienTools project was really their entry in the dental. Before that, they didn't really do anything dental except for big dental companies that make implants and stuff like that. They're not very big in America because of how successful they are in the Germany, Austria, Switzerland region. So the focus has really been there, not really export markets, but they made the choice to focus on micro tooling. So it started 60 years ago next year. Stefan's father started the company. He worked at a normal job shop. And then it was common in those days to have, in the evenings, you'd have your own grinding machine and then make tools as side projects for stuff that the company didn't want to do and stuff like that. So that is how it started. His dad got a loan for the bank for his first grinding machine. They had no space in the house. So it was in his childhood bedroom. So his dad would be in there grinding, micro tools there in the evenings. I know it's Southwest Germany's big watch industry. So that's where it really started, is in the watch industry. And that's why the focus on micro tools. And for years, it kind of stayed as this small micro tooling for the watch industry. And Stefan got involved and that's when they really started pushing for this bigger portfolio, and grew. I think when he took over the company, it was 8 people. I'm going to have to ask him about that, if that's correct, but somewhere around there. It was fairly small to now over 250 people. So with their real focus on ultra precise micro tools and innovation as far as coding and cutting edge, and where that's really useful is in a ton of industries. If I could tell you the partners that they have, it would be clear that it's, top of the line stuff, but it all focus on very precise. And that's why every tool is checked. They don't do this sample of a production lot, make sure that's okay. Every single tool is looked at multiple times during the production process. And because of that focus on the micro tooling, that's where they've really made their name.
Okay, great. So back to this, you presented AlienTools to him. He had to go back to his team. Where did things go from there?
Yeah, he kind of hinted at them that this American was going to come and pitch this idea, and they wanted their and there's a couple of things. So I pitched the idea of this alien. I'll explain a little bit of reasoning of why it's alien.
We had a question. Chief Alex Kern asked, "Why is it called AlienTools?"
Yeah, you have to set yourself out, apart in the industry. And if you look at all of our competitors, it's all family name. It's just like Sesha Tools. And I wanted something where it was, during my presentation, for example, I Googled carbide end mills, and there was, a million pages, and it looked all different or all the same. And I said, what if we were somehow able to color them? And he said, what do you mean? I was like, that's a standard marketing branding strategy is it looks different. It must be different. We know we have different tools. We have to communicate it somehow visually. And with all the choices in the world, you need to try to find that one thing that makes a person stop scrolling. And say, right. Check that out more.
I use a lot of Destiny tools, and they have I think it's a titanium diboride coating, but they call it their stealth coating, and it's black. Yeah. And then the black rubs off, and they had to release, a blog post that was like, hey guys, that's just coloring. It's actually a clear coating. It was just our stealth coating.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've seen it before.
Yeah. I remember that the color coatings have been around for a while, but I'd initially pitched that we do every tool green, and that would have been too annoying. They said, yeah, it's possible, but too expensive. But they ended up liking the idea. So Alien, I just wanted something that was to do with futuristic, that had a lot of room that you could play with for branding. And being here, I am technically an alien. So I thought it's all fit perfectly.
Yeah, I like that.
And if you've seen the alien, the actual caricature, he's always wearing Chuck tees, and that's a shout out to my Seattle home.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah. So I pitched that, and when I got to the coloring part, that's where it kind of split the room. They were like, no one needs that. And I tried to explain, and I thought it would be fairly easy. It turned out not to be, but how we color them is they have a plasma machine, so it creates a plasma cloud. And then you have to put the tool on, you have to get electricity to the tool, and then the plasma cloud sticks on it. So you can never make it the same color. That's why it's always this rainbow color, and everyone looks different, which I didn't think was bad. I thought that was kind of cool. And then we got to the point where they wanted to do it quicker. The method they had was taking too long. They said, we need just this stainless steel plate with holes in it, and then it's twice as fast, but it left this ring of uncolored. And I was like, I don't want to upset anyone, but I'm not. I think we could do it cooler. And I ended up, I'll show you this on camera. They won't see it on the podcast, but we make these little printed holders because it needs the metal contact. And so if you have the metal plate, you put it on the holder, and then it actually leaves a hexagonal design. Also, I'll send you some pictures what it ends up.
Oh, okay.
That's
cool.
Can't really see. I'll send some pictures, but it leaves a design, and that's purely because we needed some holding.
Is that a printed metal mesh or something?
No, this is just SLA.
Oh, okay.
And then it just needs the contact with the plate on the bottom. So the tool goes in, and then whatever is not covered by the mesh is then colored.
Gotcha.
ended up being really cool. So, and speeding up the process. So it's a love-hate relationship with production. I asked them to do a bunch of annoying stuff. But yeah, so we pitched that and got it started, and immediately in the dental field, most, I think, tooling, machining industry works the same. It's very word of mouth oriented. And we were really the only tool company being so aggressive with making the tool as the main product. Because usually until that point, it was just a side product, a plus product to their machine. And I started the argument of that's insane. This is the contact point of the machine and the material. It may be the smallest part of the production, but it's extremely important.
Yeah. I've had other people describe tooling as like the tires on your car. Like it's where, everything meets. Like it's got to be good. Otherwise, it's just, it doesn't matter how high horsepower your car is. If you got garbage tires, you're not going anywhere.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that really, it was definitely a pain point of the industry that they didn't even realize existed. So they kept on having tools that were breaking or material that was chipping, to the point that now machine manufacturers that offer their own tools, their service technicians, they are the ones that want the customer to be happy,
Right.
So they'll tell their customer, try AlienTools. So we get calls all the time where, I heard your tools are great. I can't say from whom.
That's great. It's because they know they're going back if it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and then it really took off in the dental world.
That's awesome. So you had sent me some show notes, and I want to get into that Iguana milling challenge, because that seems like, a big piece of marketing, lots of partners, super cool. Let's start with just the name. Why Iguana milling challenge? And then let's get into what it was and how it all went.
Yeah. So you could see that the whole AlienTools experience the last couple of years has kind of loosened them up at Sesha. They're willing to experiment with a little more things. And Iguana, Sesha has their tool lines it's always animal names. So they have peacock, iguana. They're now getting into insects, but yeah, it is what it is.
Okay.
So it's always animal based. And this is the secret technology that he showed me at my first visit. So they had finally figured out how to do it not only on flat tools, but on curved cutting edges. That was the big jump that was holding back this whole product. They figured it out, and it extends. So if you're paying $20 for a normal tool, it lasts 10 hours. With this coating, if used properly, there's customers that it lasts 2,000, 3,000 hours in copper.
Jeez. That's insane.
But the tool costs, over 300 euros.
Right.
If you're able to calculate a price per unit or price per minute per day, then it's clearly the cheaper tool, but that's such a huge price difference. So they usually spend $20 versus this. And they had I think the same thing when I see these claims by companies, our tools last blah, 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 or our product is that much better. You don't really believe it. They're clearly trying to sell their product, and they really had this problem. First of all, no one believed it. Why is this little company in Southwest Germany, why are they on the cutting edge of, that's a bad pun, cutting edge of cutting edges. Why would this company be on the forefront there? And so that they had finally, after 10 years of trying different and waiting for the technology to catch up to be able to actually do it, they had accomplished it. And then they were having immediate pushback from the market. I don't really believe you. And at that point, that's kind of a hard test phase. They pay $300, you test it for 3,000 hours, and you tell them it's good.
Right.
It's not a quick test. Then they had found out that they won the innovation prize for the state that they're in Germany. They're in Baden-Württemberg, and they won first prize for the innovation for this coating. And we had just found out about that. And I was sitting at dinner with Stefan talking about this. And at the time I was watching, you probably know Salvum makes the
Yeah.
keyboards in Belgium.
Mhm.
I was watching his Twitch live streams of him machining the keyboards or doing assembles, and found that to be a really good storytelling platform. The live streams, something that I wasn't really involved with beforehand. And we're sitting there at dinner, and I said, "Why don't we show them?" And they said, "What do you mean?" I said, "We just put the tool. We were about to get a kern. Sorry,
Mhm.
in American English." They were building this technology room so we could run our own tests. Until that point, tests have mostly been done at customers based on customers' wishes. But we wanted an in-house machine where we could run our own tests. And we were about to get the kern. And I said, "Why don't we show them? The kern's coming. It's about to be Christmas break. There's nothing planned for the machine anyways. We just put the tool in and let it mill." And they said, "Yeah, but no one's going to believe that we did that." I was like, "Yeah, we live stream it." And that was really took a lot of explaining what
Right. Why?
what
and
exactly
how?
live stream. And the first feedback was, "You're crazy. You know how much money that would cost." And then so the idea was kind of nixed at that dinner. We moved on, and then the next morning we're in the office, and Stefan's like, what is this live streaming thing again?"
You planted the bug.
Yeah. So then we made this plan. We wanted to use only one tool and just let it run for as long as it could, just milling. We hadn't decided what we were going to mill. And the other owner of Fesha is Rainer Kirschner, and he's a big coin collector. And we hadn't sold, so I'd sold Stefan on the idea, but we hadn't sold Rainer. And we said, "Okay, how are we going to convince him?" And then we said, "Oh, we can mill coins. Then I'll go for it." So we pitched it to him, and he's all good. So then we didn't really have a lot of time to plan, because there was a lot to plan. How was our work holdings going to be? What exactly we're going to mill? We want to do test mills. And we only had a couple weeks to do it. And no one had ever done a live stream before. No live events. Clearly, no one was in front of the camera very often.
Right.
As you can see. I since I'm the only native English speaker, I had to be the host. And yeah, that was quite the experience. And I don't know if you've watched the starting video. So we did a dress rehearsal the day before. Had this romantic idea of we were going to have Stefan's mom, who helped start the company, come and start the machine. Have you seen it?
I think I have. Yeah, because I think you sent me the video.
Yeah, and so she does a little speech and everything, and then goes to the machine, hits the start button, and nothing happens. And we tested everything the day before, and someone had changed a 0 to a 1, so the machine thought that there was already a piece in there. And so that was just a fantastic moment. First live stream, starting the event, and then I'm just standing there, and there you saw Marvin live in action. So Marv was on the phone within 2 minutes, on the machine, fixed it, and then we were able to go.
So how many coins did you make, and how long did it run for? And because that's online now, right? People can go watch the video.
Right. So we have kind of like the summary video, because it went for 31 days. So
That's
nonstop. Amazing. Yeah. And just one tool. We didn't want it to be, it wasn't a super aggressive milling strategy, but it was in the material the entire time. That's what we wanted to show. And so we ended up milling 28 coins. Every design was kind of from our partner, to thank them for joining that. There was a ton of companies involved, and it just kept on going and going. And we were, I'm sure we were the only ones watching the live stream the whole time, because we all wake up in the morning and this machine's still running. And one time it wasn't running, the machine had stopped. So very early in the morning. And what had happened was the water coolant for the machine that's on the internal of the machine was hooked up to the Tesla line. And that was a brand new line to this machine. And something had happened during the installation that a bunch of dirt got knocked loose from this installation and immediately went into the machine.
Oh no.
So they say you have to change this filter, like if you ever have to change it once a year, so twice a year. And it was filled up after 2 days. And so again, the machine was dead for a day, but then from Kern, they brought an external coolant system so that within 24 hours, we were up and running again. So the stream went for 32 days, but it milled for 31 days.
Okay.
There was 1 day, but all the same tool. And I said that was the only way that we could get people to believe us. If you just have a live stream that anyone can go back and look through the hours and hours and hours of video if they want.
I'll definitely link the wrap up video in the show notes for so people can watch it, because clearly, anybody listening can understand the level of complexity of these coins too. If they take about a day a piece, or a little over that, like it's not a simple gold coin.
No, it was all in all. I mean, it was terrifying and experience, but in the end, it was fun.
So, did you guys see return on that? Have you seen more adoption of those tools now?
Yeah, I mean, we immediately got a bunch of inquiries that started a bunch of testing. Again, this just wrapped up 6 months ago, this event. And the testing process for the Iguana is so long that it definitely generated a lot of interest in the tool. But as far as big sales, those are, there's companies that use this tool for big manufacturing. But as far as wide reach of this tool, it hasn't really been implemented yet full, but the interest is definitely there.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like such a cool technology, because going back to what you said about rounded cutting edges, like that's the reason that I use uncoated tools for all my finishing and like aluminum and things like that, because you do get significantly better finishes.
Right.
So if you could have a coated tool that gave me the same kind of finishes, that would be amazing.
Yeah. And Marv is actually at Sesha 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago now. And we wanted to show some examples of surface finishes and milled a huge electrode out of copper with this coating and getting mirror finishes. And so we'll be releasing those videos and reports and everything within the next couple of weeks. It was really cool.
Awesome. So you had also sent me notes that you guys are now starting to test outside of dental.
Right. So
AlienTools. So what's the next frontier? Where are you guys going?
The whole concept of AlienTools and our focus on social media and the storytelling works so well that I was in Chicago with Stefan, and we were talking about testing the AlienTools idea on the industrial side. So they have this huge mold and die line. And like I said, their focus has really been in Germany, Austria, Switzerland. They have so much business there that they don't really focus on export. And I said, we could expand because we're now set up for export. We have an export team that takes care of all that. And that's really our focus, is making it as easy as possible to get the tools with the online shop and everything. And I said, we could test this idea, on the industrial side. And it was the perfect time to test that because we were in the US, we visited GF, we visited Kern, we visited Ölheld, and then we also went to Freelux. So Ben from Freelux.
Oh, really?
I was in his garage. It was awesome. And we asked the same questions there because it was always the thinking of, if you're going to have, you could go through distributors, and that's not really what I want to do. I feel like a lot of the passion, the knowledge gets lost when it just becomes one product of, a ton of stuff. Then it's just about, the profit margin, not about actually, enhancing the customer's experience. And I said, we can do direct. And the classic thing is, oh, you need the salespeople. They need to be knocking on doors. And I said, no. I hate when salespeople come here.
Right. Yeah.
I do.
A few past guests and I have all lamented about distributors, and like there's very few distributors that actually value add Like usually, like
Yeah.
you said, it's just about profit margin. And, I end up doing all the work anyway, like finding the tools I want. And then I have to wait for a quote. And it's like,
Yeah.
I just want to be like, at midnight, realize I need a tool and go to my computer and order it and have it show up whenever it needs to.
Right. Yeah. That I had been harping on that. And no, I mean, like, what distributor is going to sell an Iguana tool that lasts 3,000 hours? That's
Right.
not a distributor product. They don't want that the tools last that long. So I said, no, we don't have to go direct. And we could ask like Ben from Freelux. And Ben was like, no, I despise salespeople when they come here. I know more than they do. When they come
Right.
here, it just takes away time from my shop and my family. And I said, if we could, this is also, I know some companies have started doing in the meantime, but years ago, I also avoided distributors as much as possible with the dental and sell direct wherever we can. And we launched an affiliate program 2.5 years ago. So we tested it for 6 months because while it's not a new concept, it was a new concept in the industry. And I mean, I want to thank anyone who helps, spread the word. So we have the loyalty program that was almost impossible or almost didn't happen in Germany because I wanted not doing a simple cashback program is easy. But I wanted to, if you helped AlienTools in any ways, you would get points to your account that you could, use as cash from the shop. So if you posted on social media, if you recommended us to a friend, all that stuff. And that turned out to be extremely difficult. And then we launched the affiliate program. It's just for the people that say, I want to recommend your tools and whatever comes. And it can't be like a one time, if you send us a customer, you get $10. You're like, oh, great, thanks. And so we introduced that concept that was really unheard of in that market. And that has really helped. And that's going to be our focus on, because I want to keep the direct line to the customer. And through affiliate, it's perfect. There's nothing better than, asking a friend, a tip on where you get this. You believe that more than a salesperson whose paycheck is dependent on it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Well, and especially I'd much rather ask somebody who's actually milling than like a salesman who either has never milled or it's been years since they were actually machining things.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, why do I trust you? Like the last time you were doing this, CNC was brand new. Like,
Right.
Things like that.
Yeah. I mean, this would all be impossible if the product wasn't that good. But when you have the product that's good or that is that good, you just have to get on the machine. And then that person will know more about their machine and machining than I could ever learn in my life. And they know what works for them. And you just have to get to that point where they're willing to try it and then get them the tools. And then if there's problems, fast support. And for that, you don't need a massive sales team.
Right.
I don't think.
Yeah, definitely. And then you had told me that you guys do all of your own merch and stickers and all of that in-house too, right?
Right.
So you're making all of that, by yourself more or less, or with your team?
Right. That has been one of my hobbies forever. I started screen printing a long, long time ago. And this whole AlienTools has just been an excuse so I can buy all the machines that I've always wanted.
I'll let you in on a little secret. That's why most of us have businesses.
Peter from Salvin said the same thing. We were laughing about that. It's just, we come up with new products, or new stuff that we want to do in marketing just because I want a machine to be able to do that. But that's one of the reasons I think the AlienTools has worked. The dental customers also see themselves as makers. So, and while I'm not a machinist, I show how much love goes into everything that goes out. I mean, we're printing our own stickers, we're cutting our own vinyl and making our t-shirts and hoodies, printing posters. Like I just got 152 centimeter wide eco-solvent printer. So I can now print on anything. And I just recently, because this grew over time, and one of the last things that I really want to change was the packaging. because I think Nick last week said it very well when he was first talking about outsourcing his putter heads. To come back, it's when you outsource something, it's not the same as if you did it yourself. It's just,
Right.
it's your company. You want it to be perfect. And that's always been a problem with packaging. You have the standard size boxes and then you try to find a solution. Most people just throw it in a bag or fill it with packing peanuts. And I wanted a solution that was clearly made for our tools. And if you're not ordering 10,000 boxes for, a custom box, then it doesn't make any sense. So it makes development impossible. Or you're paying, several thousands just for development. And so that's why we got a huge flatbed plotter now. So we cut the cardboard, screen printed ourselves, cut the inserts, cut the wraps for the tools. I'm so happy with it. It turned out so awesome.
That's really cool. Yeah, but it's very clear how much you love the company and the business, which is really, it's always cool, I think, for anybody in this industry to see somebody who actually enjoys what they're doing. And it's not just like, yeah, it is what it is,
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say about the makers. While it's a different making, it's something that speaks to them. I have the whole room set up now and thinking about just doing, live streams of how we make the different stuff, just for the people that might find it interesting, just so it's not a constant commercial about, how awesome our tools are. Change it up. And I mean, that's what a trade show's great for, right? So you get to learn the people behind the company, and live streams an amazing way to do that on a bigger scale.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and I love like those kind of videos that are like soup to nuts. Like I think Red Bull Racing did one a handful of years ago that was like how a bolt gets made for their F1 car.
Yep.
And it was like, from raw stock, and like showed you going through all the steps and then, installed on the car.
Right.
And yeah, I think everybody loves seeing the full process and understanding what goes into it.
Right. Yeah, I did a time lapse of me doing the office, or that, calling it, until I have a better name, the creation station. So now that I have so many machines, I moved out. That used to be my office. So I moved into a smaller office, put all the machines in there.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love it here. Because I mean, he would, again, to reference to Nick, was talking about why he loves machining is because he can literally make anything. And that really is a nice part of having the technology to be able to do that stuff. Because if you have an idea, then you could test it immediately. And then by making it yourself, you immediately figure out better ways to do it. So it's just constantly getting better.
Definitely. Well, let's see. We had a couple of questions for you from Instagram. Obsidian Tools asked, how much innovation in tool design is by tool manufacturers like Zeisha versus how much is at the CNC grinder machine tool builder who actually make the tools and make the programming software and all of that? And it sounds like, you were saying that Rollomatic can't even do what Zeisha can do. So there's clearly some innovation there.
Yeah, I mean, I think much like a lot of the innovation comes from customer requests where they say, I need to do this. So then we brainstorm and figure out different ways to solve that problem. The same thing goes up the chain, right? So if the people standing on the machine say, oh, it'd be really nice to do this, then of course Rollomatic is going to want to keep those customers happy. So, I mean, innovation comes from both sides. If it's about like the difference between actually the design and how much freedom they have on the machine to change. Back in the old days, used to have. I love the story the first time I heard it from them. So the old Schleifereien, there would be a stage at the front of all the grinding machines, and there would be the white coats, and they were the ones that did all the technical drawings. And I mean, the creativity and just how much intelligence and experience you need to do to just be able to calculate in your head and visualize through equations what the tool ends up looking like. So you make a machine. So the white coats would sit in the front, do their drawings with all the calculations, and they'd give it to the blue coats. Blue coats would make copies and then sit there on the machine. And back then, a lot of the adjustment was done on the machine. So the grinder had to be extremely talented. And the grinders, don't get me wrong, still extremely talented, but the software now is, it's, most of the innovation on that side comes from the R&D department. And because they can simulate all that stuff rather than having to test to see what actually happens on the machine.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Mickey Sixth Gear asked, when are they going to make the website better? Specifically, the Zesha side. The whole catalog. It has the whole catalog, but says nothing about the strengths or use cases for different series.
That's true. I'm aware of this problem, but I also understand where it comes from. The Zesha is they've been doing it for 60 years, and they have an external sales force, and that's classically how you got the message out. The sales force would be the ones going to the shops explaining, what the advantage of the tools were on that machine, on that specific thing. And this transformation to digital messaging, they're starting to understand. And we actually started a project that we pitched a couple months ago about an update to the Zesha branding and marketing with my professor, Dr. Neighbor. We went down there and gave a big presentation. So that will get better. So awesome. That's all I can say.
And then from Karakuri PGH, you already answered what grinders you're using, but what inspection equipment are you guys using for these tools? You said they're 100% inspected a couple times. So,
right. I'd have to get you the actual models of the machines. There's several microscopes on the floor. Then they have the Phenon REM machine. I could send you the whole list. I have to check what exactly I can say for machines, because that's generally one of the things that a competitor tries to copy.
Gotcha.
Is the process. But yeah, if it's allowed, then I'll follow up with a list.
Okay. And then his other question was, his employer insists on going to MSc first, but where would somebody get, what's the quickest way to get some of these cutters to the East Coast of the USA?
Right. It doesn't look like right now on our shop. So we have the now industrial side of AlienTools shop. So mold and die, if it's available in the mold and die lines, then it's in our shop. And right now it's all a placeholder image, because my next annoying thing that I didn't want pictures anymore of the tools. I want 3D renders where it's actually moving. And actually where every tool there's a close up on the cutting surface. So you can see exactly the geometry. That has turned out to be more of a pain.
Yeah, that sounds like quite the undertaking.
It is a massive project. And they're not too happy with me in production because they have to export that data. So it's just the next annoying thing that makes them hate me. But that's going to start changing. So all those tools that are on the site, even though it's a placeholder image right now, they're all available. Anything in the Zesha catalog, you can ask us, and we can organize anything from the Zesha. We're able to offer the whole portfolio that they have and export it.
Okay. What's the best way to contact AlienTools then?
They can write me directly at travis.leer@alien-tools.com.
Okay, great. And that brings us on to shop news and new things. So is there anything new coming down the pipeline soon that you can share, or is it all under wraps?
There's so many awesome things. The new here in our shop is the flatbed plotter. So I spent 17,000 euros on a flatbed plotter just to cut material. And I use it all day, every day. So I'm finally able to make my own boxes. And it's 2 feet by 3 feet. So it's really big. As far as tool lines, we have in the dental field, the most popular material in the dental field is lithium disilicate. And you can't mill it, you have to grind it. So you need grinding pins to do this.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and grinding pins are classically a problem. No one makes a really, really good grinding pin that lasts a long time. So we have one project working on that looks really good. Then we have another solution for maybe possibly the ability to mill the material. And that's a huge part of the next big thing coming from Sesha. I have to check how much I could say about this, but they're going to show it at the AMB trade show in September. And Marv knows about it. He also was upset that he couldn't share it. Because as we were doing all the filming for when me and Marv were there a couple weeks ago, when Marv and I were there, apologies, there was a bunch of those tools that they had been testing the days before that we had to hide. And that's the next level of 3D lasering.
Okay. Very cool.
Not just the coding anymore. So that's going to be a big one. And Sesha's always working on projects. There's one where they're developing or they're working with a company that's developing a new way to diamond coat tools that looks very promising. So
very cool.
A lot of stuff coming out. But I mean, in general, as far as the future of tooling, because we get the question all the time, are we worried about 3D printing? And I'm sure you know exactly why the reason why Sesha would be the last one to be worried about. It's because the precision, 3D printing will take away the roughing work,
right?
Because it's going to be hard for material sales because a lot of what they sell ends up being chips, so they're going to lose that. But as far as the finishing, it's going to be a long time before they're within, 1 micron.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what keeps coming up basically every time we talk about this on the show is that I see 3D printing as going hand in hand with machining. It removes a lot of the extraneous prototyping, getting to the point where you want to mill your first actual prototype.
Right.
There's so many times that people design things and print it and you're like, oh, this is absolute garbage. It doesn't look anything like I thought. Doesn't nowhere near the size I thought it was. We all get that part parallax when you're designing something in CAD. And you're like, oh, this thing's huge. And then you go and make it. And you're like, oh, it's like a 1/4 inch cube or something.
Right.
So I see it as very much a hand in hand relationship and not a one taking over the other's business.
Right. And so naturally the focus is going to be on more precision, the micro tooling. And just lucky that the company's been set up that way. And they've been working on exactly that for the last 60 years, getting ready for this movement.
It's amazing. Well, that brings me to the last question I ask every guest, which is, what did you research this week? And it doesn't need to be machining related, doesn't need to be business related. I've had people talk about, baby stuff. I've had people talk about car stuff. It really is whatever's been popping up in your browser all week.
I'll give the boring business answer first. I'm really trying to figure out which high-speed camera to buy. Of course, I want a
Phantom or something.
Yeah, the Phantom, but I don't have an extra 170 grand.
Right.
And we were playing with Marvin's. I had actually found that before I knew Marvin had that, before he started posting those slow-mo videos, the one from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And we got some really cool videos, but I want the ultra slow motion. And I know Edgertronic. And do you know the video series Breaking Taps?
Yeah.
He has an Edgertronic.
I had him on the show not too long ago. Zach.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah. I missed it. He has an Edgertronic, but I know it from baseball.
Okay.
Because they use it to analyze spin and pitching. And so I'm looking at that or between the free fly wave. I don't know.
That one I think I've heard of. I feel like it came up recently in some search I was doing.
I don't think you get the frame rate up to where you can actually see the cutting edge. I don't know. So I spent a lot of time on that. And then what's been our big problem? Oh, there's a war going on in Europe right now. You might have heard.
Yeah, vaguely.
my wife, I mean, we work too much, so we can't get a dog or anything. We used to have a dog when we lived in Seattle, but we just work too much to not be fair for a dog here. So as a middle ground, my wife has joined this group on Facebook where we cat sit and dog sit for people that go on vacation. This is recently new. So I'd come home from work on Friday and there'd just be a cat, and I'm not a cat person at all. and then recently there's this Ukrainian woman in Berlin that drives every couple weeks to different shelters around the Ukraine and just rescues as many cats as she can. So she just fills up her cars with cats, brings them back to Berlin, and finds homes for them. And we had said that we would be a temporary home for a cat. And there's this one cat that she cannot find a home for because it's very antisocial.
I was going to say, it sounds like you own a cat now.
Yeah. So I've been looking up how to nurse a scared cat back to trusting humans.
Okay.
So
how's it going?
Not well. I mean, the kids, so our two kids are 11 and 7. They can pet the cat, surprisingly. It spent the first 2 days under our bed, came out to eat, and then went right back. And then now it hangs around the house, but my kids are allowed to pet it. But if you put your hand out, it just runs away. But we'll see. I just felt so bad I'm not a cat person, but I kind of feel bad for this cat person or for this cat. And yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere.
Well, good on you guys for housing it. It's definitely, I think, one of those things that's like completely overlooked when something like a war breaks out. You know, you don't even think about all the animals and things like that. So that's good on you guys. That's great.
Yeah. We'll see.
Well, Travis, thank you so much for taking the time to join me. I really appreciate it. I had seen AlienTools. I feel like maybe Ed Kramer was using some of them.
Yeah.
And so that was my first exposure to it, but I really didn't know. Like I said, I didn't know anything about Zaysha, and I knew a little bit about Alien, but it's been really cool to hear all the innovation and all the work that goes behind it. And I really look forward to seeing more from you guys.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me overtell the story.
No, that's perfect. Thanks to all the Patreon members that make this show possible. And thanks everyone for listening. I'll be back next week.